I'd invest.
I'm not interested in a
Right, no,
track.
I'd
But I've
invest.
been to so many of these hearings
Right.
where people come and talk about catastrophe, and you say, okay, what do we do about it? And you get nothing but nonsense. So if you could give me, this is your chance, just 3 specific things, King,
All right.
that you would do.
So I would invest in carbon capture and storage.
Carbon capture
I
and
don't
storage.
think we need to get rid of all fossil fuels immediately.
That's one. Number 2.
Number 2, I would pass a renewable portfolio standard for the U.S., which calls for a shift to renewables and electricity generation. So I recently completed a study
Okay,
where the...
I don't have time.
All right.
What's number 3?
I would pass a cap and trade bill in the U.S. to find the least cost ways of dealing with climate change.
Tell me
and
how that
reduce-
would work.
You essentially place a cap on emissions, you give permits or allowances to entities, and you allow them to trade. That trading shifts the cost burden to the lowest cost entities. We found that that can save 70% of the potential costs of dealing with climate change as opposed to passing across the board.
You put a tax on carbon?
Well, it's different than a tax because you can freely grant these allowances and then it's trading. So it's not a tax. It's different than a tax.
All right. How much do you think all this will cost? Your best guess.
I don't have a dollar figure, but the figure is a lot lower than what I've heard on this side of the aisle today.
Well, you think we ought to just do it and then worry about the cost?
No, I think we
What's your
should do
best
studies.
What's your, I mean, you advise the UN and you're at
Right.
USC and that's a pretty good school.
Right.
What's your best guess about what it'll cost us to decarbonize by 2050?
Well, one thing I'd like to mention to the gentleman, Brown, that it's not the government paying this cost.
Yes,
He
but could you
made
give me
a
a figure
suggestion.
first?
I would say it might cost us 2% of GDP
Tell me
per year.
quantify.
So that's in terms of the U.S. to start, and that's a couple of $100 billion.
Couple of $100 billion.
To start, and then it'll level off.
Is that every
and
year?
eventually,
Wait,
I think
I don't
we'll
know why
save
I
money.
can't get straight answers, okay?
right.
Y'all want
All
to
right.
talk about the problem, but you never want to answer the question.
No, I've been answering it.
Well, no, you haven't. I'm just asking for a figure. Does anybody have a figure that it would cost to decarbonize by 2050? That's all I'm asking.
So Kennedy clearly asked the gentleman the question, and he says, how much is it going to cost to decarbonize by 2050? And I thought it was kind of funny how the way he answered, the gentleman answered, it was like, the way he came out was like when he says that it's not going to be the government who pays for this. I mean, he says it like, I don't know, like his face was like lying to us, because you know anything that is going to be pushed forward with climate change eventually is going to come to the taxpayers, paying for it one way or the other. But the way he said that, like the government's not going to pay for this, was total bull. I mean, you know it. It was all over his face. Like it was almost like a talking point he remembered that he had to give as an answer. So he goes, so when the guy says that it's going to be, it'll cost a couple of $100 billion. And when he said that, the guy started to kind of mumble a little bit, like continuing to talk, almost to camouflage that money he just said. So Kennedy quickly asked, like, is that over a year? And the guy just continued to ignore his question and went on with his mumbling agenda. And Kennedy's like, wait. You guys always want to talk about the problem, but you never, ever want to answer questions around the problem. And Kennedy just got really frustrated with the guy. But you know he's totally lying. It's going to cost taxpayers money and a couple of $100 billion. Now that's something to put pause on and really look into it.